Good morning, everybody. It is Monday, April 6, 2026. This is a commissioners meeting. We are live at the City Hall Commissioners Room, second floor. I'd like to call this meeting to order at exactly 9 o'clock a.m. Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In lieu of doing a roll call, we'll have the record show that the mayor and all the commissioners are present. Therefore, we have a quorum and can formally conduct business today. We also have present Mary Avila over at the TV setup, City Manager Taylor Tedder, City Solicitor Lisa Bourne-Ogden, Chief Keith Banks, Henry Matlos, Public Works, and Communications Supervisor Brooke Thaler. I think that's it. All righty, thank you very much. With that, I want to thank everybody that's watching virtually. I'd also like to thank everybody that's here in person. We welcome your input. Participation guidelines and rules are at the bottom of the agenda. Support documents are embedded in the agenda. You can see them electronically. Correspondence, when received timely, is embedded in the agenda also, but correspondence that's received late after the deadline is distributed to the commissioners and embedded into the agenda after the meeting. With that, I want to recognize that there is a good number of correspondence embedded in the agenda. Again, you can look at that yourself on your own. With that, we'll go to the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good morning. I hope everyone had an enjoyable holiday week with Easter and Passover being celebrated during the same week this year. We're happy to report that seasonal hiring is complete with 80 lifeguards, 32 parking, 17 police, 4 out of the 6 streets positions, and 4 meter tech positions all filled this year. In the past, we've struggled to get seasonal police and other employees, but we didn't have that issue this year, so we're very excited. The pedestrian safety project took a hiatus this past week, but workers have been out and will be moving their focus to the south side of the boardwalk now that the north side is complete. After that, they'll add the swing gates, then finish up in the bandstand area, and we thank everyone for their patience. As you may have read in Lines in the Sand, crews have been cleaning up the parks that suffered a lot of damage from the recent snowstorms that we had. Central Park, which received the most damage, is the last of them to be cleaned up starting this week, and Grove Park will be closed for an aeration project until May 15th, at which time the mulch piles that you've probably seen will be spread throughout the park. I want to extend thanks to Mike Lilly and Tim Bamforth for working so hard on these and for preparing Grove for the Easter Palooza, which took place there yesterday. Finally, Arbor Day will be celebrated next Thursday, April 16th at 9 a.m. at Rehoboth Elementary, and we hope you'll all join us. And I'm here for any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Arbor Day is a fun day, especially being out there with the kids. They actually physically plant 1 or 2 more trees and then sing the tree song. And if anybody can make it, it's quite enjoyable. Thank you. With that, we'll move on to the city's solicitor's report.
No report, Mayor.
All righty. With that, I have a meeting preface that reminder that we have adopted standards of conduct such that individuals are expected to communicate respectfully and professionally, avoid hostile, abusive, or inappropriate language or behavior, respect differing viewpoints, backgrounds, and roles, work collaboratively and constructively with others, and uphold all applicable city policies and procedures. The civility policy is applicable to all employees, commissioners, and the public. At our last meeting, some commissioners and the public went out of bounds. I'm just saying we can and need to do better, showing constraint when needed and then enacting with civility. Everyone gets the opportunity to comment, but again, it has to be conducted with civility. Also want to remind the commissioners up here that use of cell phones during the meetings will likely violate freedom of information. I've noticed that some people are using cell phones during the meetings, and that's quite offensive to the chair. With that, we're going to move on to
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Good.
would you please clarify, let's say that, I need to send something to a family member of a personal nature that I'm now, it's like when I had jury duty, yes, cell phones were completely banned, but that seems a bit draconian, that our meetings sometimes go 4 hours or longer. So we're not allowed ever to send a text from our cell phone or respond to a text?
If it's the intent of what I'm saying is that I believe, I know in fact in the past, commissioners at the dais up here have been communicating with friends in the audience. And that can't happen. These meetings are supposed to be transparent. Any communications you have need to be transparent and would need to be forwarded to Ann for record keeping. Yes, if you have something, that's fine. My preference would be you get up and leave the room.
Okay, I'm not, I don't know all the laws on that. The only place I've been aware was, when I was a juror in Georgetown, that cell phones were prohibited actually in the entire building. I couldn't, my cell phone was in my car. But I wasn't aware of this. I'll see what I can do. I've rarely used my cell phone during meetings, but at times I've had to do so for personal reasons.
Again, I think the respectful thing would be to leave the meeting room and conduct your call outside. Thank you very much. With that, we'll move on to the next bit of business, which is it's our only bit of business, of old business, is the charter. In reference to the charter, we will be discussing and possibly consideration or possible vote of proposed legislation to amend the charter of the City of Rehoboth Beach. Our sequence today will be the city manager will go first and have his spiel, and then City Solicitor Lisa Ogden, Boren Ogden, will be speaking. Then I will go to the Board of Commissioners. Then I will go to the member of the audience, the public, before coming back to the commissioners at that point. So that there is an opportunity for the public to speak. With that, we will turn it over to City Manager Taylor Tedder.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good morning, Mayor, Commissioners, members of the public. Today marks at least the 5th time that we've been discussing the charter changes since March of 2025. Recently, the Board of Commissioners voted in February of 2026 to move these forward. So today in the packet has the draft legislative language of all of the different charter changes. But first, I am going to walk us through these, but I am going to take them slightly out of order and start with the last change 15, which we've heard a little bit of misinformation out there, so want to really clarify that the city has no plans for any tax increases on property taxes. This change would change our cap on property tax. Currently in our charter, it allows for $3 million to be brought in property taxes. Staff has researched that many surrounding municipalities use a percentage of assessed value of the city to calculate that cap. So for example, we have several large hotel redevelopment projects on the boardwalk that are getting ready to go in, a new neighborhood in the former Ocean Bay Mart site, which will increase the need of services on police and streets, other things that property taxes pay for. So as the assessed value of the city goes up, it would allow the city to continue receiving property taxes from those increased value properties. But again, even in our FY27 budget cycle that we just completed, we did a 5-year projection of our budget in the next 5 years. And again, we did not put in there any increase in property taxes, and the city has no plans to increase property taxes. And just so being fully transparent, so for our 2025-2026 year, the city's total assessed value minus exempt property was about $3.4 million, $3.4 trillion. So that would mean under this scenario, the 0.1% would mean the city would be able to bring in $3.4 million in property taxes. Currently, we bring in about $2.68 million in property taxes. That's what we budgeted for FY27. But again, no property tax increases, and we have that flat limit of $3 million currently in the charter. And as we get closer to it, that means the new redevelopment projects will not be able to, we will not be able to collect subsequent taxes from those. Moving on to starting from the beginning, so the first change adds qualifications for candidates and their eligibility to be on the Board of Commissioners. This came out of a request at one of our other discussions of the charter changes to essentially this provision is so that we avoid conflicts of interest, favoritism, divided loyalties, or that the business interest exercised would give a disproportionate influence over the board. So again, this would eliminate the possibility of a spouse, domestic partner, or cohabitant serving on the member of as a member of the Board of Commissioners, residing in the same household as a member that's serving on the Board of Commissioners, or a financial interest. And I believe the city solicitor has one clarification on the financial interest.
Yes, thank you, Taylor. One of the issues that has been discussed of late is that the financial interest has to be a material interest, and that is noted in our language. But I would like to offer a clarification at a certain point that would read that financial interest means a material interest, legal share, or right in property in the City of Rehoboth Beach, to be clear. We would add just in the City of Rehoboth Beach. I think that is what we all intended, but I think it would be a clarifier for the language. In addition, I would like to suggest that we remove the section that says, I do not reside in the same household as any current member of the Commissioners of Rehoboth, or that the candidate does not reside in the same household as a serving member of the Commissioners. While I have no concern about the language, I think it's broader than we would like. And by removing it, we're very clear as to the intent, which is to make sure the conflict of interests and the divided loyalties and the appearance of some kind of, a disproportionate influence is removed. So at a certain point, I would request that we make those changes.
Okay, thank you. Taylor?
Thank you. So the second change that is highlighted is eliminating the mileage reimbursement for non-resident commissioners. I did have one person at my coffee with the city manager where I also provided this presentation note that this picture was not in the city limits, and that was on purpose. So it would eliminate that mileage reimbursement. We haven't had a commissioner apply for the mileage reimbursement since about 2020. And again, that is just one of the changes. So the third change would update the process for fixing the salaries of the members of the commissioners, including the mayor. So it would simply just adopt that via ordinance, allowing them to increase their salaries, but it would not take effect earlier than 6 months after the ordinance is adopted. So ultimately, if you pass an ordinance today to update the salaries of the members of the Board of Commissioners, then it would take effect earliest 6 months after that ordinance is adopted.
Do you want questions now or at the end of your,
Sure, yeah.
Would this
Commissioner Saunders, go ahead.
Thank you, I'm sorry. Would this supersede the rule that we have that we only discuss salaries at the September meeting?
Yes.
So this, that we could discuss them today and it would start in 6 months. We no longer consider the mid-September date as relevant.
Yes, that is correct.
Very good, thank you. That's a great idea.
Mr. Mayor and Mr. Tedder?
Commissioner, Commissioner Good, go ahead.
So, yeah, this is good news. I don't expect it to happen under this particular Board of Commissioners, but two issues. The 6-month waiting period seems random and unnecessary because, for instance, all items passed on March 20th took effect as of last week, April 1st, 2026. And in fact, the town of Lewis just doubled its town council pay in late March, and it took effect again with its fiscal year, which apparently starts, as does ours, on April 1st. So I don't see any justification. I had discussed this with all of you in February, a 30 to 45-day waiting period to implement it because the pay at the moment anyway is monthly. But why would we want, after years, the pay is $600 a year for commissioners and $1,000 a year for mayor. We're already only a fifth of what Lewis used to be, and Lewis just doubled its pay to $6,000 per commissioner. And so why the 6-month waiting period? If we're going to have a charter change, let's have it be clean and consistent with all other budget decisions in Rehoboth, which take place pretty much immediately.
Commissioner Good, I'm not looking at that as a question directed to Taylor for him to answer. I think that's directed to all of us to contemplate. And so when we get to the point where we're considering voting, you can bring that up again if you like. Anybody else? Taylor?
Thank you. So as you know, the City of Rehoboth Beach has an alderman court. So our charter was a little outdated, which this would remove the mayor's civil and criminal jurisdiction because the alderman already handles that. The mayor doesn't imprison or fine anyone, but it would add a new subsection where it would allow him to retain the power to solemnize marriages in Rehoboth Beach, even though the mayor's court would be eliminated. And I know that the mayor has conducted several marriages and enjoys doing that, and I think anyone in that seat would be able to do that in the future. The fifth change eliminates the penalties for the mayor failing to return documents and monies when his term ends. Currently, the mayor does not physically hold monies, keep monies belonging to Rehoboth Beach, and documents are all electronic now, so we don't see a need to have penalties in the charter as it's a little outdated. Currently, our maximum fine is $500, so this charter change would increase that maximum fine to $2,500 and removes the penalties of imprisonment and being ordered to work while imprisoned. So think if someone fails to get a business license, then technically they could have been imprisoned or forced to work. So we are going to remove that outdated piece. Change number 7 relates to auditors of accounts. So this would require the appointment of one independent auditor who could be an individual or a firm to serve for a 5-year term. It's a best practice in municipal government accounting. It would prohibit the reappointment of an auditor until that next 5-year period was served from another auditor, and would remove the requirement that the auditor be a substantial freeholder in the City of Rehoboth Beach, as there are no audit firms in the City of Rehoboth Beach for municipal government accounting. And it would also change the publication of the auditor's report from a newspaper to the city's website. Change number 8, this is a little bit of cleanup. We don't actually have any properties that are under $1,000 valuation, so this would remove the minimum valuation for real estate or improvements subject to assessment. The ninth change adds the option for Rehoboth Beach to adopt the county assessments for municipal tax purposes, and that would be in compliance with the Delaware Code. And again, this would just be the option to adopt the county assessments, and that choice would be made by the Board of Commissioners. Ultimately, if you felt comfortable with the county's assessments at some point in time, you could use those and save the city substantial money on doing our own assessment, which currently we operate under our own independent assessment. And then the next change is if the city does not adopt county assessments, the assessor must reassess property at least every 5 years, and that would mirror the county assessments required under Title IX of the Delaware Code. This next change updates the deadline for certification of a quarterly supplemental tax list, which would match our fiscal year, which is April to March. And then under the reassessment, this change would require Rehoboth Beach to calculate a rolled back tax rate and to provide notice of the difference between the rolled back rate and the tax rate set by the commissioners, which is also in accordance with Title 22 of Delaware Code. Ultimately, when you would do a reassessment, you want to bring in the same amount of tax that you currently were. However, with properties being reassessed, that means their assessed valuation number changes. So the rolled back rate would essentially set the tax rate to be similar of what that current property is paying at this time. So you have a reassessment, and then you would calculate a new rate that essentially is equivalent to what you're bringing in currently. And it would be depends, but it could possibly be a lower rate, but would still bring in the same amount. The next change also relates to the city budget cycle. Currently in the charter, it says that the city manager must present a budget in May. Our fiscal year actually begins in April, so this change just aligns that to have the budget prepared at the appropriate time. And then this next change relates to powers that are no longer relevant to present day. So regulation of observance of the Sabbath day, establishment of pounds as in dog pounds. We don't have an animal control facility here, so this would also remove the prohibition or impound of wild or domestic animals, imposition of taxes on dog owners, and collection of a per capita tax on all persons who are qualified to vote in the annual municipal election. So this change would just remove all of that from the charter, since this is all things that the city does not do or practice. And again, the first change that I presented is that tax cap change from the $3 million hard cap to the 0.1% of fully assessed value. And again, this would not be any kind of property tax increase, and the city has no plans to increase property taxes. But ultimately, those are all of the changes, and in your packet there is a wonderful synopsis that was put together by the Legislative Council that our city solicitor has been working very closely with, and then the full packet of all of the changes. But I am here for any questions you may have, and I believe city solicitor may have more to present.
You want to move on to you next, and then we can ask questions about, let's do that.
Again, I just wanted to be clear on what the next steps are. What you have in your packet is an actual bill. Our changes to the charter require that legislation be passed by the General Assembly. This bill will be sent then to Senator Huxtable with Representative Snyder Hall as the prime sponsor in the House, and it will proceed through their committees and a vote in their chambers. I also wanted to be clear that there are changes that have been discussed. All of the changes that Taylor just noted with you are substantive changes, and they have been voted on by all of you. There are administrative changes in the document that you see changes to archaic language, changes to conform to the standards of the Delaware Legislative Drafting Manual, and editing unclear language. There is also reordering of language. All of those are administrative and beyond our control. I do want to thank Marissa White. She's been very, very helpful at the General Assembly. As you can see, this is an undertaking, and we'd like to thank her for all of her efforts. I have I don't see the need to discuss all of the changes that have been made, but I would like to ask for your vote to change that language in the section related to qualifications of a commissioner. But other than that, I would ask that you move to send this document to the General Assembly for their consideration.
When the time is appropriate.
Yes, when the time is appropriate.
Commissioner, and we'll go now to questions back up here, and then we'll go to the members of the public. Commissioner Stewart?
So just in regular people's terms, we debated and discussed these at public hearings
Yes,
and voted on them,
yes,
each of these.
each individual
And then
one.
what happened is it went to your office for writing the words, and then that had to go to the General Assembly because this is their legislation. And so what we're looking at now is simply, they took our votes and put them into words that are General Assembly words. So that's why we're not discussing the substantive pieces. Now, with regard to your specific comment about the qualifications, can you point us to lines so we can see the language?
I can. Need glasses, forgive me. Okay, starting at line 32. We discuss the qualifications of a commissioner. At line 38, where it says financial interests, I would ask that the language reads, financial interests means a material interest, legal share, or right in property in the city of Rehoboth. I believe that's what we all had intended, but in the interest of being clear, I would like to clarify that. In addition, I would like to remove line 44, or reference to such, that says that the candidate does not reside in the same household as a serving member of the commissioners. While I understand what we intend, I think that language is considerably vague, and I would like to make sure that we are clear on what the intent was.
Commissioner Stewart?
Thank you, Mayor. So in an instance where I live in the same household, so who would be living in the same household that's not already proscribed under cohabitant or domestic partner? Are you saying that just if a friend lives with me, they could be on the commission?
Yes. I'm concerned that is overly broad, and that is not what we are intending to do. By virtue of this particular section, we were intending to make sure that we were precluding undue sort of influence, and that we were trying to narrow so that there would not be conflicts of interest. This, to me, presents as overly broad, and we may be subject to challenge on that particular provision, when the reality is what we are trying to do is limit what can be done. This does not preclude, I mean, the goal, as I understood it, was that for domestic partner, for spouse, and with financial interest. So all of that remains intact. But this particular provision, I believe, is just overbroad.
If I'm a child, an adult child, living with my mother in the city, that means we could both be commissioners, correct? Even if there's no financial if there's
Yes.
no financial interdependence. So if I'm paying rent at market rate and I live there and my mom happens to serve, I can run and serve. Did you get pushback from the legislature on that language, or, like, I'm just,
No, we got pushback, in fairness, on the financial interest, just to narrow it, which is, I think, important to do, because I think that's what we intend in the city of Rehoboth Beach. I'm just looking forward to potential challenges. I don't mean to air that out, but I am concerned with the potential for a challenge. So I raised that.
So again, at some point, not now, but at some point, I'm going to ask or seek a motion to approve sending the proposed legislation to the General Assembly, and including the two qualifiers, and consideration of what Commissioner Good had brought up, if we want. Anybody else? We'll go to the public. Commissioner Saunders?
Sorry, I just should have maybe brought this up at the time, but can we go back to number 10?
On the
On the
slideshow?
slideshow, yes. I think there was something there that's a little bit,
Here,
I understand it, but I think the
grab it.
public does not understand it completely. Number 10 talks about us using the assessment of the county. And I want to make it very clear to the public, because I've got some feedback this weekend and prior, that we are not intending to use the county's assessment. And the 5 years simply refers to us doing our own assessment every 5 years, not automatically using the county's. Although I can see when you read that you might think otherwise. And I wonder if maybe we ought to change the wording a little bit to be more definite in the 5 years, to mirror the county's reassessments are the bad words, I think.
Commissioner, the county's reassessment will be done again in 2030. And so that is when ours would start. And so that's why it says at least every 5 years to mirror the county's assessment.
The words to mirror the county's reassessment, I think, is misleading to some individuals that may think that we are going to use the same numbers as the county.
So you would like it to say to mirror the timing of the county's
One or two
reassessment?
words would make all the difference to me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Wait a minute. Commissioner Good?
So on two of these components, the one is minor. Number one, I think the city is inviting litigation. I'm not certain it will happen, but neither Congress nor any state in this country has such a ban for elected officials. It's, the financial interest is almost unenforceable in the sense that everybody's going to be looking at people's tax returns, and it sounds very problematic. But the main problem, as Commissioner Gallanti and I were concerned about, is it strips the civil rights both of citizens and of the voters to decide for themselves what's appropriate for the town. I'm more concerned about the removal of the property tax cap. Under this city manager, since approximately May 15th, 2024, but with the fiscal year that started 6 weeks prior, if you look at the growth in the budget in fiscal year 2026, which just ended, versus, which just ended March 31st, 2026, and fiscal year 2025, which ended on March 31st, 2025. There's been huge double-digit growth in the budget. And I don't believe if we raise the property tax cap in this way, which would currently allow the city to collect $3.4 million versus the current just short of $2.7 million, that the money will be spent responsibly and the budget will ever be brought under control unless we have a new direction and a new administrator in this town. For example, salaries have rose in that period from 7.6 million to 8.9 million. So they went up 17%. They went up far more than the 3% COLA the first year and 2% is upcoming. Salaries and benefits, no surprise, rose by an even greater percentage than 17% because so many of the benefits have been maxed out under this city manager And there's been a compounding of a lot of these the salaries, because a lot of the benefits get added to the base salary. For instance, salaries and benefits have risen from 10.3 million in the first year I'm talking about, and to 12.2 million in the most recent year, which is up 18.6%. What town can possibly sustain this level of growth in its core budget? There's a lot of talk about the capital costs, yes, have gone up astronomically, because some of that is shared by Sussex County. But if you take the way City Hall and the bureaucracy has grown, we can't allow this particular administration with commissioners, where Commissioner Thier and I asked for spending cuts at the March 20th meeting. We never got a list. I had raised reasonable means to cut spending, got no response, and I believe we're aiding and abetting a City Hall structure which has grown out of control, and we're not making any attempt to rein it in. We've been financing our budget with deficit spending, 5.5 million in infusion that December 2024 that I voted against. And we will, as Commissioner Thier has shown, and I agree with him, we simply will be dipping into our reserves in order to sustain what has become a huge budget. The town of Lewis, for instance, has a budget under 13 million. Why is ours now over 50 million? There's something wrong with the way that we keep spending money. We've added projects, we've added consultancies. So I hope removing this cap is taken off the table until we have a new administration here in City Hall.
Thank you, Suzanne. Anybody else? I'd like to go to the members of the public. As we offer opportunities for public comment, please wait to be acknowledged by the chair. And given the floor, then please come to the center lectern. State your name and address or relationship to the city. Direct your remarks to the board and keep your comments focused on the topic at hand, which is in front of us. Everyone gets 3 minutes so we can hear from as many voices as possible. There's a countdown clock on the wall above the one monitor over here, and it will beep when time is up. If you have the same message as a speaker as the person in front of you, it's recommended and preferred that you indicate that your message is the same, and we will give that the equal amount of weight. With that, are there any members of the public? Nancy, come ahead.
Hi, my name is Nancy Doyle, and I live at 202 Country Club Drive. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. I recognize, as Commissioner Stewart mentioned, where we are in the process, other than the conflict of interest with the commissioners issue. We're at wordsmithing, and I have wordsmithing suggestions. First of all, I had independently noticed it should be mirror the timing, and I actually wonder about hamstringing Mr. Tedder with mirror. Synchronize or something, so it doesn't have to be the exact same date, like the same month or something. Just give him administrative flexibility. That's an idea. Another wordsmithing idea that I have is you talk about increasing the salaries, and I know what you intend. You intend for your salaries to be comparable with neighboring cities to avoid, or maybe not. Maybe they want them to be higher. Maybe I'm wrong. But if you did want them to be comparable with neighboring cities, you could put in words like comparable if that was the intent there. Maybe I misunderstand. I have indications from commissioners I misunderstand. So then forget that. You have, I don't know if this is a proposed wordsmithing change to 9 or 11, but you say we are going to, providing the county taxes, you'll change, I got it now, you change the tax rate so you're collecting the same amount. I don't know if this is a wordsmithing comment or a question to you. I don't know if I'm allowed to ask questions, but would that leave you with administrative flexibility to provide transition relief? So if you did a reassessment and you found out you were tripling my city taxes, would you, as commissioners, have the power to say, we're only going to increase your city taxes by up to like 100% increase in a given year and transition it through? Would you have that flexibility under this language? That's a question I'd ask, because when we were dealing with this, I was talking to some commissioners. I heard, well, we'll have the power to work it out down the line. And I'm concerned about whether this language locks you in so that you would have to triple my property taxes. I pay more county taxes under the assessment. I agree I should. I just wanted a transition period because I'm retired earlier than I expected with a mortgage. So same thing with the property taxes. I just want a transition period. Does this these words let you do it? It's a question. Commissioners' financial interest, commissioners' cohabitation. I guess they're in the same section. One of them is causing more concerns than the other. Maybe they could be split out into two changes. Maybe that's not a good idea. Oh, change 5, very technical. Mr. Mayor, your documents are electronic, so you're saying you don't have to return anything. I understand that. But you also are privy to very confidential documents that when you leave office, you don't want stray extra copies of it on your machine. So in terms of elimination of that, would there be some understanding you'd return those? Also, I have cookies at the
thank you,
end of it
Nancy.
from Gather. I have cookies for you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you, Nancy.
You let me sneak that in.
Yeah, can he provide some clarification? Taylor?
Oh, no,
No,
let's wait.
we're not,
Yeah,
we're
we're
not
not there
doing
yet, yeah.
conversation. Tom, and then Carolyn?
Tom Gainer, property owner in the city. So interestingly, the first noted change is attacking marital status as an eligible criteria to run for office. This change was proposed at the last minute in February by an alleged lawyer on the commission, was presumably vetted by the city solicitor, who's allegedly a lawyer, and is now being sent to our legislature to codify. The right to pursue office in the United States is a fundamental right in our political system. It's repugnant that one of you tried to impose a weaponized marriage status, particularly given how hard we fought for it, to inhibit one's fundamental rights to run for office. It's repugnant to the political system and it's repugnant to the Constitution. You have no right to do it. This change is the first one reviewed, and it goes to the heart of the entire change enterprise here by the people proposing them. This provision is fundamentally unconstitutional and violative of various amendments and marriage protections under federal and state law. By all means, keep it. Send it to Dover. It's another humiliating example of the sophomoric thinking that emerges from this body. I hope that this one example of pushing a fundamentally unconstitutional provision, driven more by animus than intelligence, certainly, kills the entire enterprise. I hope it will. Shame on all of you who vote for it. You know it will be challenged. You actually just said it, because it's idiotic and illegal. You conflated nepotism contracting restrictions into an electoral qualification process that doesn't constitutionally work. You should know better. Next, the limitations on property tax. You eliminated any breaker on your authority. With all due respect to Mr. Tedder, I don't care if the board intends to raise taxes or not. The breakers and the protections for us are now gone. You didn't pass any limit on your authority. What you did through all of these changes was remove things that protect us. You didn't add contract limits to be approved by referendum. You didn't add contract limits for certain dollar thresholds. You didn't create legislative districts for the benefit of homeowners. And you didn't do anything else that's pro-homeowner or pro-investor. Simply an accretion of power, unconstitutional rubbish, and personal peeves. I hope you guys kill it, but I know you won't.
Thank you, Tom. Anybody else? So, Carolyn, I'm sorry.
Carolyn Diefendorfer, city resident. First, I want to, the property tax cap. I think you need to pass that. Failing to do that will actually prevent you from getting the same amount of property taxes from the new developments that you get from us. You're going to have to lower taxes for everybody else in order to do that. And that doesn't make sense if the amount of services are going up because of those properties. It doesn't mean you're going to increase our taxes, but it allows you to collect an equitable amount from those new developments, and I think that's critical. Expenses will go up when you have more streets to take care of and more trash to pick up and everything else. And if we want our individual fees to stay reasonable, like trash, for example, then we have to have a way to cover those expenses. So I urge you to pass that. the auditor one, I understand what you're trying to do to, get new auditors in, but I think you need to consider that what if you don't get bids from more than one auditor? What if the bids that come in are significantly higher than the auditor you have? I do think you should go out to bid on a regular basis, but I don't think you should, limit yourself to being able to accept a bid from your current auditor if they happen to be the best one that you get. As for the commissioner qualifications, I understand what people are saying. I think the one thing, to Commissioner Stewart's point, if you have friends that buy together, I mean, I know somebody who, there were 6 of them that went together to buy a house. I don't think you should limit that. If you are going to limit the qualifications, I agree with removing that part, because you don't want to keep them from doing that. I also would like to think that voters are smart enough to pick the right people. So I'm sort of on the fence with that. And then the salary piece. I like the idea of waiting 6 months or waiting till the next budget year. I agree with changing it so that you're not waiting till your term is up, but I like the wait to be in there. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Cindy Lovett, and then December, and then Lisa. And Steve, do you want to speak? Okay.
Good morning, Cindy Lovett, 4 Canal Street. I only have 2 points I want to make. I was intrigued as to what all the emails were that came in to the city on the topic of the charter. Interestingly, all but one were exact copy and paste of the others. I was curious as to what the comments were and what problems with the changes people had, and there's none there. It's just one kill the changes. The charter is a living, breathing creature. If we still had the same charter originally, there would be no card playing, no cows wandering the streets, and the speed limits would be 6 miles an hour. So this needs to grow and change as the city grows. And as far as the tax cap, the lot next to me sold for $1.2 million, okay? So my house is obviously valued more than that. I looked this morning, $622 to this city to live in this town. I think it's rude. It's a golden egg for investors. I mean, they can build a house and rent it for thousands of dollars. Their taxes are probably paid in the first 30 minutes of rental. So I think that, and I said this before, we've got to increase the taxes to the residents. That is just, doesn't make sense at all. I paid $5,000 in Wilmington, just the city tax when we lived there, and I had a 2-bedroom condo on the 9th floor. So I think we really need to rethink the tax numbers. And I do support raising the cap. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. December?
December Hughes, Columbia Avenue. There's been a lot of discussion about whether this proposed charter change constitutes a tax increase, and it's a fundamental shift in the city's fiscal architecture. It replaces our fixed $3 million cap, which is a hard guardrail, with a percentage-based formula. The city argues that this is a technicality to ensure that development pays its fair share. But a cap does not stop you from taxing new commercial properties. It simply forces you to prioritize that new revenue to provide existing relief to existing residents. By removing the $3 million guardrail, you aren't just capturing growth, you're building an automatic revenue machine that scales with our volatile real estate market. With the removal of the cap and the change to 0.1% of our total property value, it expands your legal authority to collect our money. It's not a technicality. It's the removal of the only structural protection that we have against market-driven swings. Ms. Stewart has publicly stated that the city is on solid financial footing with $19 million in unassigned funds above the required reserves. If that is true, then there is zero operational urgency to remove the $3 million cap. So we either have excess money or we're working with an outdated constraint. Both of these cannot be true. If the goal is truly to ensure commercial interests pay their fair share without burdening residents, under Delaware State Code Title 22, you already have the legal authority to amend the charter to establish different tax rates for commercial and residential properties. Instead of a blank check percentage cap that hits every homeowner, use the tools provided by state law. Protect the residential character of this town and implement a split rate system that targets high-intensity commercial use while keeping our $3 million guardrail intact for the people who live here. We're asking for a guardrail, not a system that expands on its own. If the cap is outdated, propose a new transparent dollar amount. Do not ask us for a blank check. Thank you.
Thank you, December. Lisa? And then Steve?
Thanks, everyone. I have a few comments.
Who are you? Who are you?
Oh, I'm sorry, Lisa Schlosser, city resident. That was outstanding, December. I don't think I've met you, but wow, that was outstanding. I couldn't have said it better. And then also what Tom said about the constitutionality of what you're proposing here, I totally agree with. First, overall comment, I feel like you're attempting to ram through these changes with very little public participation and opportunity for feedback. And what you're doing with all these protections or all these proposals, in my opinion, is removing protections for the residents. This is all about the city, the bureaucracy. It's not about the residents and taking care of the residents. Specifically, you got to eliminate this proposed change about spouses. As Carolyn said, I mean, we voters, you heard the voters. Every one of these voters could be up there. They're smart, they're articulate, they understand the issues. We understand who we should vote for. We don't need some artificial constraint put on as to, as to who we vote for. It's an ordinance or a proposal that is targeting one property owner in this city right now. It's due to one property owner, similar to what you guys did. I'm sorry, I just can't get over it, with the trailer changes a couple years ago where you targeted two property owners, me and one other property owner. That's it. That's got to stop. You got to eliminate change number 8. I mean, come on, another resident unfriendly thing. Another thing I want to point out is that, you know, all these impacts are giving you another blank check when our budget is rising. Like, I can't even believe how much it's gone up since I was a commissioner. I don't understand, even though I've read it. In 2025 budget, you increased our taxes by 29%. You did that based on misinformation about a pending deficit in the budget, which came out 3 months later as untrue. That information was false, upon which you raised taxes by 29%. Yes, you've not lowered those taxes. That's the kind of thing you should be doing for the residents, thinking about how you lower our costs. So bottom line, I think you should table all these changes right now. In some cases, they're unconstitutional, and they're going to just cause more legal fees for the commission and for me as a resident. And number 2, focus on the things that we residents care about that are going to impact us. Our inflation rate's through the roof in this country right now. Prices are through the roof. And everything that you're proposing will have a negative impact on residents or target 1 or 2 property owners at the expense of, you know, everybody else being impacted. So think about the residents, think about us, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Lisa. Steve?
Steve Latzius, city resident. In the interest of brevity, which is in short supply, I mirror the comments of Cindy, who spoke earlier. Thank you.
Thank you. The lady in the purple sweater first. Did you want to speak? Oh. I'm just agreeing with whatever. Oh, okay, there you go. Jeffrey? Identify yourself. Thank you,
Yes,
Jeffrey.
Jeffrey Good, resident, person targeted against in one of your charter changes. Let me talk about that one first, please. It makes no sense not to trust the residents of this and voters of this city not to pick who they want. They just showed you who they wanted. To have not just a law, but a whole constitutional change so I can't run again with Suzanne there is just absurd. And it's also probably unconstitutional. It's also, I did a tiny bit of research. There's no place that does this. The federal government doesn't do this. Congress doesn't do it. The states don't do this. Why do we have to do this? It makes no sense. So I'm clearly against, that's just the spousal end. Then on the other stuff, I don't even know how you would do it. It's so complicated. We're a small town. People have all different financial correlations with other people in this town because it's small, and they're not allowed to both run for office. It makes no sense. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So that's that. Then getting to the financial stuff. I think the reason most people don't want you to raise the $3 million cap is because we don't trust what you'll do financially. I mean, I could go on for a long time on statistics, but basically we've been, in the last few years, our budget has increased more than twice the rate of inflation. The personnel issues have increased over 18.5% since we have a new city manager. We go on and on. You haven't shown demonstrated financial conservativeness with our money to allow this cap to be removed. Okay, so those are the two main issues that I wanted to talk about. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you very much. And bring it back to this. When you are ready, commissioners, again, I will seek a motion to approve sending the proposed legislation to the General Assembly, including the two clarifiers, if you so choose to include that in your motion. Anybody?
Yes, Mayor. I would like to move that the draft legislation amending the City of Rehoboth Beach Charter, the document embedded in our agenda titled Bill Amending Rehoboth Charter Final Legislation, be sent to the Delaware General Assembly for its consideration.
How about the two clarifiers?
With the clarifiers mentioned, if the solicitor could highlight those for us, please.
Yes, sir. The
Include it.
definition of financial interest would be changed to include financial interest means a material interest, legal share, or right in property in the City of Rehoboth Beach. And the section related to the candidate does not reside in the same household as a serving member of the commissioners would be removed.
Mr. Mayor?
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'd second it.
Mr. Mayor, we aren't going
Further
one by one
discussion?
because I think,
We're going to do a roll call vote, yes.
yeah, but it's on a package.
Well, we're going to start
Whereas-
with the package, and if the package fails, then
It won't fail
then we
under
can.
this.
If it fails, then we
So
will
that's
pare it
like-
back.
I didn't hear what the solicitor said. I just would appreciate for repeating it. I didn't hear that. I'm sorry. I didn't hear what you said.
There
were two changes.
clarifiers.
Financial interest now means a material interest, legal share, or right in property, adding in the City of Rehoboth Beach. In addition, removal of a qualifier that says the candidate does not reside in the same household as a serving member of the commissioners.
So we have a motion on the table by Commissioner Patrick Gossett and a second by Commissioner Mark Saunders to approve sending, to move that the draft legislation amending the charter that's embedded in our agenda be sent to the Delaware General Assembly for its consideration, including the two clarifiers offered by the city solicitor. Is there any further discussion?
Mayor?
Did you want to say something?
I did
Commissioner
want to
Stewart,
briefly, I think some of the changes people were suggesting were to the PowerPoint language, which is different than the legislation. It's not verbatim. So if you're, and the legislation is on the agenda. And I think, so that's why there's some confusion. And regarding the spousal thing, I'm the one that that raised it in October. We discussed it at 3 meetings, at 3 public hearings. I don't have a problem if you take it out. If it's causing a bunch of consternation, I know that Commissioner Good voted against it, Commissioner Galante. If that's, not a big deal, I do think, let it go. But I don't want to upset the apple cart, so however you choose to establish or do it.
Remember, I have a motion and a second on the floor. Commissioner Good?
Well, Mr. Mayor, it's concerning because in February, and perhaps another meeting, these were taken and voted upon one by one. My major problem is, of course, between a percentage and the ability to reassess every 5 years. That does basically mathematically give unlimited taxing power on the property owners. And that, something of so major and substantive like that should probably go out to referendum in August with, simultaneous with the election. In what town, we have basically handed a city manager who has pushed through 18.6% run-up in salaries and benefits, and it's not just the new city solicitor's salary, which was, of course, way above the whole city of Wilmington city solicitor's salary, but it's the incremental, the compounding effect. It's out of control, and I believe that should go out to referendum with the election, rather than being pushed through by a council which has never been willing to consider spending cuts, in spite of Commissioner Thier and I asking for them. We never received them, so this is not the time to raise the property tax cap.
Commissioner Good, we have a motion and a second on the floor.
Mayor? Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Yeah, I have no problem if you want to take them individually. It seems that would solve a lot of problems. Some of them would pass unanimously, some of them wouldn't. Do you want to take them individually?
We have a motion
Have a
and a
motion
second
and a
on the
second
floor
on the floor.
You would have to vote that down.
to do the whole thing. You would have to remove your motion, and Patrick would have to agree. Otherwise, somebody else could make a second.
I'd be willing to remove my second if that would help.
Yeah, I withdraw my motion at this moment.
Well, we need,
I would suggest that all of the votes had previously been taken, and that this is legislation as such with 2 minor changes that are substantive, but you have voted on the other substantive issues. So the concern with going one by one is that you have already voted on those changes.
we have.
Mr. Mayor? Mr. Mayor?
If Patrick made his motion again, is there anybody that would second it?
Well, Mr. Mayor, may I clarify something?
Commissioner Good?
Because as I think some of the public is aware, while what Ms. Ogden said is mostly true, the problem is 2 of the proposed charter changes brought forth on February 9th were not noticed with 7 days or with any notice to the public. One of them includes this ability to reassess every 5 years, which is part of the way property taxes could run up exponentially. So those two alone, for that reason alone, it's only today that the public has seen the verbiage for those two in, with 7 days' notice. So
Commissioner
those
Good.
two
Commissioner
should
Good.
definitely be voted on separately.
Commissioner Good.
Commissioner Good, with, in all fairness, saying that I am calling into question the veracity of my statements is inappropriate. I think we all need to be clear about what FOIA is and is not. FOIA, the number of times that we have discussed the charter changes, FOIA is not violated simply because new information is shared or proposals evolve during a meeting. If you recall, one of the arguments was that the individual amendments were raised during a discussion not listed in the agenda. You made that argument. But as long as the agenda gives fair notice of the generalized subject matter, changes to the charter language, the law fully allows this body to discuss, question, and make changes in public. That's the essence of open government, not a violation of it. So be very careful that you are calling into question the veracity of the actions taken by this board.
She's an elected member. She can say what she wants.
Yeah.
Mayor,
Commissioner, City Manager Ted.
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to provide some clarification. So the last time the city did a reassessment was in 2014. And the tax rate at that time was $1.78 per $1,000 of assessed value. And the city's assessed value went from $74 million to $3.2 trillion in FY15. So the commissioners at the time lowered the tax rate by $1.74, taking it to 0.04 per thousand assessed value. So the city ended up actually bringing in less money the following year after reassessment because the commissioners every year set the tax rate. So the commissioners at that time decided to bring in a little bit less. So it doesn't mean reassessment. Reassessment does not mean taxes go up. I just
Mayor?
wanted to clarify.
if I may, the point of the 5-year reassessment, this is following legislation that was passed in the state, that guidelines that were done by the reassessment that's taken place by the 3 counties, again, brought by a lawsuit against the state because reassessments had not been done since the early 70s. This is stipulation in state legislation guiding all 3 counties to reassess every 5 years. Again, the tax rate and reassessments, it's a formula. As City Manager Tedder just mentioned, the tax rate is adjusted based on the assessments. And assessment is a very big challenge in that regard. And as we have seen, the most recent reassessment here in Sussex County, there have been wide ranges of people having to pay more taxes, people paying less taxes, and that's because the reassessment hadn't been done in over 30 or 35 years. So a reassessment every 5 years is a very smart way to keep things in check with regards to expansion, with regards to new developments in the city, both commercial and residential. So I strongly support that 5-year reassessment. And the comment made about the timing, it is specifically, I will read the actual language, beginning in 2030, all property assessed under this subsection must be reassessed at its fair market value. After the 2030 reassessment, all property assessed under this subsection must be reassessed at least once every 5 years. Each 5 years period beginning on the date the assessments are finalized under paragraph G1 of this section. Again, no specific wording in the charter about tying in with the county at all. It just states a reassessment every 5 years. And again, there is options for utilizing reassessment as we have done here in the city in 2014. We have not done one since that period of time, so it's been over 10 years. Based on that comment, I would like to make a motion, again, that I move the draft legislation amending the City of Rehoboth Beach Charter, the document embedded in our agenda titled Bill Amending Rehoboth Charter Final Legislation, be sent to the General Delaware General Assembly for its consideration based on the additions and deletions as mentioned by the city solicitor.
Is there a second? I second the motion. With that, we have a motion back to me. With that, we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Patrick Gossett and seconded by Chair Mills to send the proposed legislation with the 2 clarifiers up to the General Assembly for its consideration. We'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Galante?
Before I provide my vote, I want to make a couple of comments. So first of all, the mayor and the Board of Commissioners have received a pretty significant amount of emails. There's folks here who are testifying. They're passionate, they care. I always like to say that at the root of all things, we individually, residents of the city of Rehoboth, love this community and we want what's best for it. That's a building block, a starting point for us. But I also want to say that a lot of the information that was put in these emails is misleading and wrong. It's false, okay? And it is
Yes, it is, Tom. It is.
No.
it is intended to work people up about issues that they're conflating issues. A couple of points. First of all, related to the revenue cap, most Delmarva coastal towns use a millage rate and do not have a revenue cap, okay? I did some research and I want everyone to hear this. There is no revenue cap in Lewis, Dewey Beach, Bethany Beach, South Bethany, Fenwick Island, Ocean City, Berlin, Ocean Pines, Chincoteague, or Cape Charles. Rehoboth Beach is one of the only coastal towns on Delmarva with a hard revenue cap. I also want to pick up on a point that was made about these charter changes being rammed through. I have been a commissioner for 8 months. These charter changes were discussed at my second meeting as a commissioner. They have been discussed on multiple occasions in this body, in this forum. It's unfortunate that people were not here or contributing to the conversation, but there was a conversation collectively by this group related to the charter changes. Prior to me being a commissioner, the charter changes were brought up also a multiple number of times. So we're looking at over a year of meetings where these charter changes were discussed. When we voted on them, I voted against certain ones. Commissioner Good referenced one that I voted against. I voted against that one. I voted against the mileage. I am the only non-resident commissioner, so I am the only one eligible for that. I've never submitted a reimbursement claim for mileage. However, I thought it should be retained because I thought it created incentive for non-residents to run, and that was that. I didn't get everything, but I do believe in the collective wisdom that this group has and possesses, the seriousness with which we are applying our rationale, our thinking, our judgment, our conversations. I have reached out to a lot of people related to these emails that we've received. I have heard back from very few. I've heard back from a few. The multiple people that I did hear back from, I got a very interesting email this morning that said that they regretted that that email was sent because they now understand the facts. Again, I'm not getting everything here, but I do believe in the collective wisdom of this organization, so I will be voting yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Good?
Nay.
Commissioner Saunders?
I would prefer to be able to vote on these individually, but that's not the way it's going, so I'm going to vote yes.
Commissioner Gossett?
Yes, just to bring in a couple other comments before I vote is, again, there's some misinformation out there that has been spread through cut and paste emails, that the phrase was used earlier in conversations here, that these statements and emails are not correct on the substance of the proposed charter changes. Nothing in the proposed changes will increase property taxes. Any changes in taxes or tax rates will be the subject of further discussion here at the dais by voting at public meetings and a vote of the mayor and the commissioners. Just for reference again, in fiscal year 2006, the tax rate was $1.40 per 100. It changed to $1.55 in FY11, and in FY14, it was $1.78 per 100. At the reassessment, which was done in 2014, the first time in about 40 years for the city, the tax rate dropped to 4 cents per 100. So that's a deduction or reduction of $1.74 per 100 based on the assessment. That assessment went from $74 million to $3.2 trillion at that time. So again, things grow. People are understanding that nothing's going to stay the same. We have to be able to expand and grow. And other things that are affecting the tax base, if you will, we have 3 new hotels that have been approved in the city. That's totaling over 200 new guest rooms in the city, which will bring, fortunately, many more guests, which will have an impact on the use of the beach with a number of trash pickups along the boardwalk. All of these, may have to add additional staffing to do that. We have 31 new homes proposed in the Oceanside Reserve, the old Baymart property, as well as something that must be considered here, that new homes are being built in Rehoboth at a much higher value, property value, than recently demolished older homes, that in order to pay their fair share. The city has issued 34 demolition permits for homes in 2025. That's a total of 287 demolition permits over the last 10 years, all of those homes being at a higher value. And nothing in this proposed changes will increase spending. Decisions on the city's revenue and expenditures are made as part of the city budget. The FY27 budget was a subject of 5 public meetings, January 16th, February 9th, February 20th, March 9th, and March 20th, and passed at our meeting on March the 20th. The statements in these emails are not correct regarding the process and public input. The changes proposed to the charters have been under discussion at public meetings. The first charter change discussions were held back workshop meetings in April of 2024, followed by public meetings in March and October of 2025, January and February of 2026. No one's civil rights have been violated. There have been multiple opportunities for public comment, and we have received many letters, emails, and oral comments at these meetings. These emails that we received are proof that these changes are not enacted without opportunity for public comment. This is all part of a democratic process, and therefore I vote yes on this motion.
Thank you, Patrick. Commissioner Thier,
No.
Commissioner Stewart.
Yes.
The chair votes yes. The motion passes 5-2. That's it. With that, we're going to move on to the next item of new business, which is discussing ordinance, amending Chapter 208 of the Property Maintenance Code of the Municipal Code of City of Rehoboth Beach by adding new sections regarding aged building safety inspections. There are 2 support documents presented. One's a presentation and one's a draft ordinance. Corey Shanko, building official, is going to present.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Just one moment while I pull up the presentation.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, well, good morning, everyone, Mayor and Commissioners and the public. Thank you for having me with you this morning.
Thank you, Corey.
Today, I'll be presenting a proposed amendment to Chapter 208 of the City Code It's where our property maintenance code lives, to establish an aged building safety inspection program for certain existing buildings and exterior building components in the city of Rehoboth. This is a property maintenance and a public safety program. It's not a zoning change. It does not change use or density or height or development rights. Its purpose is to identify deterioration in certain aging buildings before those conditions become a life safety issue. Just as importantly, this program is not intended to require existing buildings to be brought up to current construction codes solely based on age. Its purpose is to require professional evaluation and appropriate repair where unsafe or deteriorated conditions exist. I'm going to walk through this in a straightforward sequence today. First, why the program exists. Second, what buildings qualify. Third, how the program inspection works. Fourth, what owners must do. Fifth, why the program is structured the way it is. And finally, what comes next. The goal today is to make the program clear for the commission as well as the public. So this program starts with a simple reality. Older buildings can hide serious problems. In a coastal environment like Rehoboth Beach, salt air, moisture, wind exposure, and water intrusion all accelerate deterioration, especially in facades, balconies, decks, exterior connections, and other exposed building components. The ordinance is built on the recognition that these conditions may not be readily apparent without professional evaluation, and that proactive inspection program is a better public safety approach than waiting until conditions become dangerous. So the purpose of this program is early identification, not reacting after failure, but identifying risk before the failure happens. This slide is really about scope control. There are three categories shown here. First, covered buildings. These are buildings that are 4 stories or more, or greater than 50 feet in height, excluding detached one-family dwellings. Typically, that means multifamily buildings, lodging uses, and certain mixed-use buildings. Second, limited scope buildings. These are smaller buildings that would otherwise fall outside of the main covered building definition, but that contain balconies, decks, stairs, railings, or similar exterior structures that, because of age, exposure, configuration, or observable damage, warrant a limited scope inspection for life safety reasons. Third, which are not included, are the detached single-family homes, which are excluded from the program. And that exclusion is intentional. This ordinance is not meant to regulate the city's detached house stock. It's targeted to building types and exterior conditions that present an elevated risk. This process is made to be simple. Step 1 is a trigger. A building enters the program at 30 years after first lawful occupancy, or sooner if observable damage or safety concerns indicate risk. So the program is not purely calendar-based. It also allows event-based inspection where conditions warrant. Step 2 is inspection. The owner hires a Delaware licensed engineer or architect as appropriate to the scope of work. The city does not perform the inspection itself. Step 3 is report and repair. After initial compliance, the inspection cycle continues. Facade, building envelope, and balcony or deck inspections recur every 5 years, and inspections of the primary load-bearing systems recur every 10 years. So this is not a one-time certification event, it's a recurring maintenance and safety program. This slide lays out what the owner's responsibilities are. First, the owner must hire a licensed professional. That means a Delaware licensed engineer or architect practicing within their appropriate area of competence. Second, the owner must submit the report to the city. That report must be complete, signed and sealed, and sufficient to address the required inspection elements. This ordinance also ties that work to recognize technical standards, including the ASCE SEI 30-14 for facades and building envelope assessment, and ASCE structural condition assessment of existing buildings for structural review, or recognized equivalent methodologies. The ordinance gives the building official authority to require clarification, supplemental evaluation, or additional investigation where a report is superficial or incomplete. Third, the owner must address deficiencies found. If issues are identified, the owner must submit a repair plan within 30 days, subject to extensions for good cause where no unsafe or imminently dangerous condition exists. Fourth, the owner must repeat the process on schedule. This is an ongoing program, not a one-time filing requirement. And the key principle here is that the responsibility remains with the owner and the owner's licensed design professional, not the city. This slide explains the design logic behind the ordinance. First, it's targeted, not broad. Single-family homes are excluded, and the program is focused on multi-story buildings or smaller buildings with exterior risk conditions. Second, it is property maintenance, not zoning. Again, this ordinance does not change land use, density, height, or development rights. It operates under Chapter 208 as a property maintenance and public safety measure. Third, licensed professionals evaluate. Engineers and architects inspect and certify reports. The city reviews those submissions for compliance and sufficiency, but the city does not perform the engineering evaluation itself. Fourth, this is about repairs, not code upgrades. Buildings are not required to comply with current construction codes solely because of age. The purpose is to identify and correct unsafe or deteriorated conditions. Fifth, the city can require adequate reports. The building official can reject incomplete or superficial submissions and require additional information where necessary. And finally, the ordinance is designed for Rehoboth scale. It's risk-based, phased, and adapted to local conditions rather than copied wholesale from another jurisdiction. There were several that we looked at. This slide classifies the roles, which is critical for public understanding. On the property owner side, the owner hires and retains the licensed professional, submits the required report, pays for inspection and repair work, responds to findings, and completes corrective action. On the city side, the city administers the program, reviews the reports for compliance and sufficiency, may require additional information where needed, and enforces deadlines and corrective action. There's also a portion of the ordinance for technical assistance where the city, if need be in that case, may at the discretion reach out to a certified engineer for additional evaluation. The city does not inspect the buildings in the engineering sense, and it does not certify buildings as safe. The ordinance expressly states that city review or acceptance of report is not a certification, guarantee, or warranty of structural integrity, safety, or continued serviceability. Responsibility remains with the property owner and the licensed design professional. That is why the summary at the line at the bottom of this page is very important. The city administers, licensed professionals evaluate, and the owners are responsible. Thought it'd be prudent just to have a couple common questions here that may rise to the top of your minds. First, does this force buildings to meet current codes? No. Only unsafe or deteriorated conditions must be addressed. Building age alone does not trigger code upgrades. Second, is the city inspecting every building? No. This is a targeted program focused on higher risk building types and exterior conditions. Detached single-family homes are excluded. Third, what if there's a disagreement about a designation or a decision? The ordinance provides written notice, an opportunity for reconsideration before final designation in certain cases, and an appeal path from final administrative determinations. Fourth, why do this now? Because deterioration is predictable. Coastal exposure accelerates it, and early identification is far preferable to emergency response after conditions become dangerous. This is again, a preventative program, not a reactive one. So in closing, this program is intended to accomplish three things. First is designed to identify risk early before deterioration progresses into a life safety emergency. Second, it's designed to protect public safety by requiring professional evaluation and appropriate corrective action where unsafe deteriorated conditions are identified. Third, it's designed to support responsible long-term building maintenance through a structured inspection framework that is recurring, risk-based, and proportionate to Rehoboth Beach building stock and coastal conditions. This ordinance is designed to identify and address building deterioration before it becomes a life safety event while remaining within the city's authority and administrative capacity. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Corey. This, I think, I don't know if you said it, but it's generated from that Florida collapse.
Yes, so there were, the Surfside condo collapse that happened years ago prompted the state of Florida in their state statutes to regulate these types of inspections. And we looked at Boca Raton, Boynton Beach, also Miami Beach, the city of Miami, Sunny Isles Beach, North Miami Beach, Surfside, like the one you mentioned in Brevard County, and their implementation pages within that county, such as Hollywood and Hallandale Beach. The one that we found in Delaware, the only example that we could find was Newcastle County. They had an ordinance number 23-094, very similar to this one as well, in that they were looking at these similar types of buildings. All of the models that we looked at had similar inspection cadences, triggers, and the technical standards that were used.
The
for those
Surfside
approaches.
in Florida, did they implement new rules after the collapse?
As a
So
result.
it wasn't a matter of before and everything. Well, you know, how I related to Rehoboth Beach, I've been here quite a few years. And I've learned over the years too that these brick buildings or concrete buildings, unfortunately, they're like a sponge. They actually soak up the moisture, the sea foam and everything. And what happens is the metal on the interior that's structurally reinforcing the concrete deteriorates and becomes useless. Over the years, the Henlopen Hotel has had soffits, and Henlopen condos, whatever they are there, have had soffits that have fallen down directly in the center of the boardwalk. Would have killed somebody if it hit them. The Henlopen condos themselves have done a full-blown denuding of the building, if you will, to remove the concrete exterior, where you could physically look from the outside at the ground level into people's apartments because they took it all off and had to replace it all. They had to do the same thing for 1 Virginia Avenue, and they did that over, I think, a 4-year project, you know, north, south, east, west or something. They have also done that at Edgewater House. So obviously those were all just proactive. I don't know if there was something in particular that triggered any of those condo management people to do that. But it was certainly not welcomed by the tenants because they couldn't use their building or their units for a couple years. Plus their assessment went up quite a bit. Anyhow, so my point is I see the need for something like this. And the devil's in the details. You have a proposed ordinance here in front of us. And are there any questions by the commissioners? Commissioner Galante and then Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So first of all, Corey, thank you for the work that you put into this. When I saw this on the agenda, I was pleased that this was something that the building and licensing team had picked up. I want to add a little more detail about the Surfside, Florida Champlain Towers incident that happened in June of 2021, and 98 people were killed, okay, as a result of the negligence of the maintenance of that building. That's a pretty significant number. We obviously don't want to have anything like that happen here in Rehoboth. You know, as I read the ordinance, there's a couple of things that jumped out to me, and I've got some notes that I'm going to send you, but in particular, I was concerned about the Board of Adjustment responsibilities. Currently, they're really narrowly defined at this point on zoning matters, and I'm wondering about the applicability of this ordinance as the Board of Adjustment governance rules are currently structured. I think the current scope would not extend to hearing appeals related to aged building inspections or other enforcement under Chapter 208. So if we're going to do this, I think we have to make sure that the Board of Adjustment is empowered appropriately to be able to hear these appeals. Thank you.
Can you address that a little bit? Because, yeah, we do have article in the zoning code on Board of Adjustment and what their capacity is. You want to
Yes.
have any
It's
comments?
Yeah, there's a, Chapter 102, this comes from Chapter 208, which is specifically our property maintenance code. But Chapter 102 of our current code is the adoption of all of our standards. So we use the I codes, the ICC codes. And in the ending of that chapter, there's a portion there for appeals. So appeals of all of those adopted codes, as our current city code states, go to the Board of Adjustment. Further, in our flood reduction chapter of our code, any appeals from that chapter also go to the Board of Adjustment. But you bring up a good point, and if it's something that the commissioners would like us to look into, we would have to create a new Board of Appeals that would separate the Board of Adjustment. We don't have that currently, and there are many other municipalities that use their Board of Adjustment.
I'm not suggesting establishing a separate board. I would just want to make sure that the current board that we have is empowered to hear the appeals.
Currently, under Chapter 102, they're empowered to hear appeals of
Okay,
our building
thank you.
code.
Let's task the city solicitor with looking into that. Okay, thank you.
Mayor?
Mark and then Commissioner Saunders.
Thank you. I think this is great, Corey. Thank you very much, and thank you for all your teamwork that was put into this. I just want to remind everybody, folks watching at home, that we don't have to go to Florida to see an example. About a year and a half ago, Mr. Tedder invited us commissioners over to the deconstruction of the Chiraco Hotel. And what we found there was, I don't know what the word would be, but it was astounding, to say the least, that hotel, which was literally leaning onto one of our main streets, was held up by rust. I don't think there was any steel left there. It was just rust. And would you agree how close that was to being a catastrophe?
That certainly was not safe.
Pretty
and
close.
We went into an emergency to allow them
So
to
I just want to
demolish
remind
in the
everybody,
summer.
there's no reason to think for a minute that this isn't past due. And thank you for doing it.
Thank you, Mark. Commissioner Thier, and then Susan.
Yeah, so quick question on Board of Adjustment. Look, I concur. It exists. I think this makes sense for appeals to go there, but my question specifically is, if they're denied at the Board of Adjustment, can they then go to Superior Court?
I don't know, I'll have to get back to you.
Okay.
That's where I was trying to give her a little
Okay.
time.
Just a follow-up question. This is for you, Corey, and this is on line 312, where the design professional may employ alternative or more comprehensive methodologies. I'm guessing you're the one that, if they don't use what you've defined in here on 304 and 307, the ASCE, so on and so forth, you're the one who will determine, if they use something different, you're the one who will determine whether that is as good, for lack of a better term, as good as what we've defined here, correct?
Correct.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Commissioner Stewart?
I have a question of Corey, and then I have some specific comments about language. Corey, regarding, it would seem that the bigger, more urgent issue is structural, the full structural, but the cadence of that is every 10 years, and the other facades are 5. That doesn't mean that as you pace these inspections at the outset, you could start with the full structurals, I presume. I guess I'm asking, how the interplay of the sort of the intervals between, which you've stated, versus in the next however many months or a year or two it takes you to get these started, will you start with full structurals? And then 10 years later, it'll be full structural. How does that all work?
Correct. Under the draft ordinance, a covered building is, and I'll go back so everyone can see it here, is 4 stories in height. 4 stories in height or over 50 feet. There's the limited scope buildings, and that's a separate thing to address, but any building in Rehoboth that is defined as a covered building here, 4 stories in height or over 50 feet, and that is aged 30 years or greater, automatically will be triggered for the structural and exterior facade under the first, as we start this program, and then after that, it's every 10 years for the structural and 5 years for a facade.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Thank you. So I'd like to look at the draft ordinance section, sentence 105 and 106.
Can you give line numbers?
Yeah, 105 and 106. Thank you.
You said section, that's all.
My bad. So there's a qualifier on the last portion of the last sentence there that reads, "and is accessible, occupiable, or located above an area of pedestrian access such that failure could create a falling hazard." And my suggestion is to eliminate that language because I can imagine that there is a building that could be unsafe, or a balcony deck system unsafe, that isn't accessible, occupiable, or located above an area of pedestrian access. Do we really need that qualifier in there?
That was there if a portion of it would fall and create a falling hazard over public property, but we could certainly add in an additional line there on private property as well.
I guess my thinking is I could have a balcony on a tall building that's, I could have a balcony that is not a threat to pedestrians underneath, but is a threat to the people that are standing on it. As opposed, it seems to be the focus is what's happening underneath, because if a balcony collapses, which is not an unheard of situation, then I just don't know that that qualifier is necessary, but that's a drafting question.
We can take a look at that.
And then my next question or comment is, we answered that one, hold on. Actually, you answered everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Commissioner Gossett?
Corey, thank you very much for drafting this ordinance. A couple of questions. Could you help me understand the rationale between the division of a covered building and a limited scope covered building? I mean, I understand it's 3 stories and 4 stories, but why treat them differently?
The main rationale was that the covered buildings would present the most risk and have the most impact. 4 stories or higher, 50 feet or greater, 30 years or more. We took out detached single-family dwellings. Those are regulated by the IRC. Because we already have a property maintenance code, these types of things are already addressed in that code, but the standards which are used in the property maintenance code aren't laid out like they are here. So what this does is it allows for all those other commercial buildings that may be less than 4 stories in height, but that have observable damage to them, to go through this same process where the city has a standard that they're looking for when they put in a repair plan. Again, the certain covered buildings, they're not going off of a cadence like the covered buildings would be. It's really there to give the remainder of those commercial buildings that we would have observable damage, where our property maintenance codes would already address what to do. It just doesn't have the administrative backbone like this ordinance does, where the property owners and the city know what type of standards they're using, what type of checklist that they're using, and how we can, in a standardized way, say that those buildings would also have also completed a sufficient repair of those elements in the same way that they're doing with the covered buildings, so that we're using one standard for all of these types.
Thank you. A couple others, if I may. You talk about line 121, inspected under this article based on documented observable damage. Is that a simple email? Is that a form? Is that, how do we qualify as documented observable damage?
So any type of documented observable damage would be if there's a complaint that comes in, or if there's something that's seen. Typically, we go by the plain view doctrine, so anything that can be seen from a public street or a sidewalk that could be noted as potentially dangerous would.
That could be done by a member of the public? Could that be done by a staff member? I mean,
Correct. It's really there, if there's a concern of some kind, it allows the city to at least investigate that, as we would right now under our property maintenance code.
Right.
But again, having this using a standard procedure for it.
Okay. And also just getting, as I do get into the weeds, it says required reports. Are those reports specific in questions that are asked, or how do I know as a building owner what is my responsibility is to respond to a report?
Those reports are going to be laid out, and I'll just toggle down here for everyone to see. Under the section 208-18, required reports and standards. There is here a structural report, facade and exterior component, a limited scope option, electrical report as required if there's a noticed damage as well. And then the professional standards, and this section here is where those reports are going to come from. Under the ASCE, American Society of Civil Engineers, or the Structural Engineering Institute, 30-14, and then the ASCE, the Structural Condition Assessment of Existing Buildings. Inside those, they have models for reports of how they're supposed to be outlined, what they're supposed to look like. The city already has copies of these, so we're using those as a baseline.
Got it.
And then underneath, it does allow, above this, it does allow the design professional, if they have something similar or they're more comfortable working with, we'll take a look at that for equivalency. And then right below that, not below this in this section here, but there's a portion here for technical assistance if the city so desires.
And line 144, facade and building envelope. Is there a need to include signs or awnings in that description with regards to, we talk about exterior walls, railings, parapets, cornices, et cetera. We have in commercial areas a lot of signs that are old and awnings and that type of thing. So just a consideration of an addition of that. I don't know if that's covered in the
We
property.
could, under the current one, other exterior mounted elements
Okay.
that may present falling hazards, that would fall under. But we can certainly put,
I would say just to make it a little more user-friendly, actually spell out signs and awnings perhaps.
Mr. Mayor?
And,
Oh, you're-
I'm sorry,
you
still a
have
couple
one
others,
more.
if I may. And with regards to the 30 years in original building certificate of occupancy or equivalence first law occupancy, we have that data that is available for review, so that, we could produce a list of what buildings fall into those categories and would know what they're, what's going to happen for them, and they have to participate in this?
the overwhelming majority of cases, we have those in our property records in City Hall. This one also allows, if those records can't be found, then we can do a further investigation. and
But
put
we
that
would
on.
start with an existing list to, again, notify individuals?
Correct.
Okay. And then on line 287, under required reports and standards, just curious, there is, as you mentioned, electrical report as required. Is there any additional information needed about plumbing, life safety, elevators? Do those categories fit into the required reports or standards?
Not with this as it relates to the structural, this is really the structural safety.
Okay. And I think the only other comment that I have is with regards to the appeal process. And I think in our code, under 15935, which is the flood damage report, that provides the opportunity for the Board of Adjustment to hear cases for flood plain advisory. So that language exists. We may just want to adopt it and pull it into here. First draft, that's very nice. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Good?
Thank you. So I just first became aware of this effort at this meeting. I appreciate the presentation. I'm worried it's a little burdensome and it will cause a lot of, it will require a lot of staff resources. I just want to confirm that you periodically or each year verify that each condo has current insurance, insurance carriers. Is that's an affirmative? Because I think that might be a start, including in the insurance companies, they're taking on liability. They typically, especially with a new policy, but also at renewal, require structural inspections, require that there be no risk of appurtenances to the building, dropping onto the sidewalk. So I'm wondering if we want to just do increased enforcement of insurance policies, plus that the insurance carrier has within the last, say, 1 year or, well, maybe 2 years, carried out its own inspection of the building, and they have every incentive to do so. I mean, they're held, they're held liable for problems caused by structural, when the structural integrity is not sound. So I guess I want to know about how you monitor insurance coverage for condos in particular.
Sure. Well, under the current draft, I believe if they're doing what they're supposed to be doing and getting their assessment inspections through their insurance company every so often, that would fall under the professional standards, under an equivalency review. So while we have laid out that these assessments have been done towards with these two here on this page here, zoom in. Under these two standards, we could take in an assessment inspection report via an insurance company through them as an equivalency for this inspection. And that'd be something that we would look at. We can certainly look into that a little bit more as far as what's carried, but the intent of this ordinance is simply to allow the city to ensure that those assessment inspections, or in this case, the building envelope and facade or structural systems have occurred. If the building is 30 years or older, they provide that to us, and then that we receive them in that cadence.
I guess I'm suggesting we step up our monitoring of the condos and their up-to-date insurance, and that the insurance company is, a reputable insurance company, which, because of its own liability, has undertaken a recent inspection. Because otherwise, we're creating a whole new, bureaucracy with this, possible appeals process before we've looked at whether we're covered already. Now, it seems Newcastle County has an ordinance already, and maybe you mentioned that, but for a little town like ours to take on a program similar to what an entire county might do, that's a lot for us to do, when we could maybe first increase our monitoring of their of the insurance carrier. But I mean, how often are you making sure that insurance is up to date and the inspection the insurance company wanted to carry out and did in fact take place on the premises for the condo, for instance?
Well, currently, we have no records for that. So that this ordinance would require that we at least get those records from these particular types of buildings at that cadence.
I guess I think that the ordinance could maybe be truncated. That could be, we could try that. That's a lot less resources than this massive new program. Like, you're assuming the worst with these buildings. I mean, we've owned condos in the past, and it was, I mean, it's in everybody's interest. Yeah, people do know Surfside, they were negligent. It was on there, they didn't want to impose a huge capital assessment, because it would have been something like $20,000 per condo, per like one-bedroom condo owner, and they delayed it. They were aware of the problems, but they basically, delayed it, which does happen. I mean, that's the proof. in that Surfside condo. But I'm wondering if anyone else is concerned. We are, we're a small town, and we're not just doing, the so-called low-hanging fruit. We step up our monitoring of their insurance coverage.
For me, proof of insurance is not comparable with inspections. And I think that is what's so critical that this provides, is the inspections on a proactive schedule. Commissioner Stewart?
Thank you, Mayor. And I don't know if this is a question for Taylor or Corey, but I know that there is a concern among business owners who are tenants in building owned by others, that the cost of this not fall upon the business owners who are already struggling. How is this handled in other jurisdictions? Will this just roll into the triple net lease? I don't know, I haven't recently seen a triple net lease, but will the landlord pay this and then pass it on to business owners? Which I think would be really difficult for business owners. And I don't know, maybe we haven't discussed that, but maybe that needs to be something we talk about.
We can certainly discuss that. The way this ordinance is written, currently the cost falls on the property owners.
Right. Right.
Anybody else? We'll go to the members of the public on this topic, which aged buildings. Dan? State your name and relationship.
Hi, I'm
to the
Dan
city.
Slagle, Executive Director of Rehoboth Beach Main Street. Good morning, Commissioners, Mayor, City Manager. Corey, I just have some concerns, and thank you for bringing that up because that's what I want to talk about. I totally agree about safety first, totally, all about safety. We want to protect everyone. As Executive Director of Rehoboth Main Street, I've traveled many conferences across the country. This is an issue every town is having because buildings are getting older, and funds. But what I want to talk about is this is a triple net lease. And what is happening, I'm getting calls from concerned business owners, and the cost falls on them. So inspections, architectural, everything is falling on these triple net owners of these businesses. And there is a lot of concerns because they're hurting right now. A lot of the businesses are hurting. Then you're going to infringe this cost onto them. So I just wanted to share that concern. There's one business downtown right now has to fork out $50,000 because part of the buildings is encroaching on another property. There's 4 owners of the building, and they're telling the person that owns the business she has to pay for it. She has to come up with $50,000. So this is what I'm saying. There's a lot of things that's falling on these business owners. So it's just some concerns, and I know this is a draft, but I'm going to read some notes here. Many businesses in Rehoboth, the majority honestly have triple net leases, meaning any cost incurred on the property gets passed to the renter, the business owner, not the landlord. So small businesses will be paying these inspections themselves, not property owners. I don't know how you can change it up or whatever, but we just want to look out for these business owners too. And of course, I'm here speaking on their behalf. Thank you.
Thank you. Cindy and then Tom. And then Lisa. Again, this is your opportunity for comment. It's not a question or
Right,
conversation.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cindy Love at Fort Canal Street. Of course, we all want town to be beautiful and safe. About 7 years ago, an organization I volunteer with sent out over 100 letters to landlords in town to try to get them to engage. Help us make town nicer, help us improve your buildings, and how can we maybe, figure out some way to work together. We got 2 responses. A lot of the landlords have owned these buildings for decades, and they just take the rent. And think of how many times a business is in there, they leave, the next one comes in, finds the place is an absolute mess. We had a bakery in town that left. That building cost so much money to the new tenant that came in, then his business failed and he left. I mean, we have to be aware that even the cost of the engineers to come in to look at the building is going to be passed on to the renter. I fear that our older buildings might become unrentable. Who's going to want to go in there knowing that they're going to have to spend, beyond everything else to set up a business, all this money to get the building safe and usable? One of my thoughts is there some way that we could help them get grants, identify grants to help them with these costs? I don't want us to become, like Disneyland, where all the buildings look alike. Somebody comes in and demolishes them all and builds these big white buildings, and that's not what we want. We love our charm. We have to figure out how to make these businesses keep from moving to Route 1, where there's newer buildings and, who knows. But these business owners, the landlords have owned these buildings for decades in so many chances. We have to figure out a way to get them to engage and then not pass it on to the business owner. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom?
Tom Gaynor, property owner and investor. With all due respect to the prior speaker, the way to engage the business community is to actually have a better pro-business commission that doesn't look to create and invent new solutions in search of problems that don't exist. And with all due respect to Commissioner Galante, the gaslighting that you accuse other people of doing about the activities that are being undertaken on behalf of the commission, the biggest gaslighting issue that you and Commissioner Saunders just engaged in was the deaths at Surfside. If we don't pass this, people will die. Please, save the sanctimony for private conversations, not the public discussions. Argue the substance, argue the issues, but don't argue the gaslighting. We all know better. And when you've got issues that are being presented in the last minute, issues that are invented solutions in search of a problem, you don't have the moral high ground to then argue that somebody else is gaslighting your actions. I'm afraid not. You guys are the queens and kings of gaslighting us. And the biggest issue is procedurally, this is going to invent another bureaucracy. It's going to, if we have so much time that you guys have to be able to impose a new regime, maybe we should think about curtailing some of the expense on labor. And one of the interesting things is, Corey, with all due respect, every time I come here and you've got a presentation, it's about a new initiative, it's a new mandate, it's a new cost to homeowners or property owners or investors. You're doing your job. The city manager is not. Everything that you present should have a cost impact that is baked into this proposal. What is the average cost of these inspections? What is the actual cost of the bureaucracy to police the inspections? Mr. Tedder, if you were doing your job, all of these new invented solutions in search of problems on behalf of the bureaucracy would have some element of a financial impact statement that was attendant to it in order to allow all the decision makers here some better basis to make decisions other than resorting to gaslighting about 98 people died. If we don't do this, that's going to be Rehoboth. Guys, let's stop the amateur hour.
No, Lisa, Nancy, and then Lisa, and then
So Nancy Doyle, already gave my address, and I brought cookies from Gather for afterwards to be kind to you all and to thank each and every one of you for your public service. And sorry I came to this meeting unprepared and wasted time in the previous thing because I wasn't looking at the line edits, because your time is precious to me, and many of you got paid almost nothing to do it. I have to tell you, this is the first time I've seen this presentation. I was thinking, wow, Corey's doing his job again. It's clearly explained. It doesn't look like a lot of expense hitting the city. The major expense developing regime they've already done. It looked like a great presentation and very forward-thinking. And I was like proud of my city and my public servants when I heard this. And it also seemed sort of legally set up correctly by an actual, not an alleged solicitor, who I thank for her service. So I kind of like this presentation. I mean, I know it's early on, and maybe there's a cheaper way to do it and concerns that Commissioner Stewart has, but it seems like an opportunity to be sweet and kind. I'm not virtue signaling. I'm saying we need more cookies. I really think we do. And I have these great cookies for you afterwards. They're really good. They're you know the new shop, Gather, we're talking about businesses? I've got a bunch of little mini ones. They won't ruin your diet. And I want to give one to Corey too, because I think I'm no expert, and I rely on you guys to do the homework, but this looks like a pretty good idea. We're a seaside community, Sounds like a great idea.
thank you, Nancy. Lisa? And then Carolyn.
I was going to be harsher. Lisa Schlosser, Dover Street, here in town. I was going to be harsher, but I can't after how nice Nancy was, so I'm just going to kind of present this a little kinder. I continue to have a concern with these one-off changes to our ordinances, to our code, that impact residents as well as our lovely, lovely local businesses. I really encourage this commission to think a little more strategically. Look at the overall code, look at the overall ordinances, and make holistic changes to ensure there's no conflicts, to make sure that there is a financial impact statement. I mean, you're sending these charter changes up to the legislature, and the things we should be focusing and thinking about is, what are the impacts to our businesses of new regulation? What are the impacts to our residents? Requiring a financial impact statement for all of these, and Corey, I commend you and the city manager, to be honest, for taking the initiative. But I ask the commissioners whose job it is to look at the economic situation of our city and take care of our residents, take care of our valuable businesses, and think holistically about these changes you're making. And make holistic changes, not these one-offs. Like, for example, the one addressing the trailers that impacted only me and one other neighbor. I don't know if I've mentioned that before, but I did want to just bring that up. Do this as in a calculated way, not a one-off way, because you're impacting all of us who voted for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Anybody else? Carolyn? Yes, ma'am.
Carolyn Diefendorfer, city resident. When I saw the presentation, I thought it was wonderful. I think I understand what Dan is saying about the businesses. If they have exterior issues that are going to affect the public, I think safety has to prevail. I do understand what he's saying, though, but maybe we start with the covered buildings that are over 4 stories, that are over 50 feet, that if there's a problem and they come down, residents, visitors, the public could all get hurt. I also worry about the large condos. Those condo associations, if they're not doing their jobs and not looking at these things, then I like the idea that the city might be forcing them to take care of their condo owners. You've got people that assume where they're living is safe. And if these buildings haven't been properly maintained and they come down and the city knew there was an issue and didn't do anything about it, they could potentially hold the city liable. So I think it's a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Anybody else? No, if not, bring it back to the table here. Again, this is the introduction to this topic. Some said they might have additional questions to forward to Corey. And we'll confer with when it gets on the agenda next. Commissioner Saunders?
I would like to ask our solicitor a question, if I may. Is there a way that we could legally tie the cost of the inspections and the responsibility of the inspections to the owner rather than the leasee?
I think that's what Corey and I'll work on.
Okay, you'll let us know at a future date. Great, thank you.
Anybody
Mayor.
else? If not,
Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Wood?
In the interim, Mr. Schenko, would it be possible for you to be, more assiduous in your contacts with condo presidents and others to, verify those 2 elements, the, current insurance policy and how recently, either upon, switching insurance or renewal with the existing insurance carrier, a structural inspection has taken place, and keep a roster. That to me seems like a pretty, finite task that almost, anyone on your staff could do. Go through, I mean, there aren't that many condos in this, what are there, 80 or 100? How many condos are there in the 1.2 square miles?
I was going to, when I came back for the next one, we're currently gathering those figures right now. To create a master list, similar to what we've done with the restaurants.
Right, guys, I'm more concerned, and for instance, the recent grease trap inspections, to me, that's like very critical, because we've had, blockages along First Street and other locations. Those are great. I appreciate that, that those inspections have been, have taken place to try to reduce the amount of grease that's flowing. But in this case, I hope we'll at least consider, because right now I'm not as comfortable with this ordinance because of, yes, the cost benefit is not clear to me yet, because we have means to, especially with buildings where you're aware that there's an overhang onto the public right-of-way, that would be like the top priority, followed by others where you're just worried about the residents themselves. But I don't know, you have to hope the so-called invisible hand with insurance companies, I mean, unless they're hiring, insurance companies, you might want to get a ranking of insurance companies and make sure they're hiring reputable insurance companies. That they really do. I know in any condo we've owned, the insurance company has done periodic inspections of the structural integrity. So it should be something, and I think we need to know the date of the last inspection, and that's just contacting each condo association president probably and requiring documentation. Thanks.
Thank you. Marco, put me back on the screen, please. With that, we're moving on to item number 9 on our agenda. Review future meeting dates. The next Board of Commissioners meeting date I have on our schedule is Friday, April 17th at 2:00 p.m. in this room. With that, we'll move on to citizen comment. This is the opportunity for the public to offer comments that are not on the agenda. These are off-topic things. Tom?
So Tom Gaynor, property owner and investor. So the off-topic thing is your procedures. It was embarrassing sitting here as an owner, as an investor in this town, as somebody who has made a commitment, a substantial financial commitment to being here and to making this a better place, and watching the amateur hour on the discussion of fundamental charter changes. Not a single one of you actually demonstrated a capacity to know what was going on. You've been at this for 6 years. I'm still mortified at my endorsement of you at the beginning of it. But after 6 years, there's no growth. There's no demonstrable control of a process. You look like you didn't know what to do next. You had final versions of fundamental changes to the document that governs your behavior. You didn't have copies for anybody. You've got them on the website. They were not published. You didn't review them in the meeting. Then you voted for them as a package in spite of this one over here trying to pull back the blatantly offensive, illegal attack on marriage that we fought so hard for. You should be ashamed of yourself, particularly as a lawyer. And that went nowhere. She pulled it back. You guys voted on it as a blank package. Oh, left hand, right hand. Oh, we don't know what we're doing. Guys, you're a government. You're not an HOA. You have fundamental responsibilities as trustees and as a fiduciary duty on behalf of the people of this town that sent you here to perform a public duty in the United States, the greatest republic that has ever been created, and you act like you're running some pissant little HOA that you get to do whatever you want with somebody else's money if it's your pet peeve that'll satisfy whatever the passion is of the people who sent you here. It's shameful. And look in the mirror, Susan. You're among the worst. And I hope, if anyone here has a pretension to taking the center seat, because I hope you're done, I hope that there's some commitment to being better than has been demonstrable so far. It's embarrassing. We deserve better. And frankly, you deserve it to yourselves to be better. Thank you.
Mayor,
Thank you.
I think we should be able to respond to that babble that we've been hearing for 3 minutes here. We're sick of you, Tom. We're sick of you. Why don't you go downstairs and get yourself an application and run for commissioner?
I'm sick of watching you not know what you're doing,
Mark,
spending my money,
Tom,
Mark.
We got to cool it off.
Babble is what it is.
Cool it off. Does anybody else want citizen comment? Again, this is opportunity to comment not on topic, anything that was in the agenda.
I live in a nice city with a lot of nice neighbors, and it's not my job to apologize to anyone who was rude to you or insulted you all. But I appreciated the transparency in today's meeting and the conduct of the meeting. And I know it's been sometimes hard serving the public, Mayor, and I know you love the city. And I think you've done a great job. And you've been kind to just my little exchange student on the walks. And it's time to remember all the good memories, you know? And to remember, I'm gonna put this really politely, who could not possibly get elected in this city because they're off-brand, right? We're a small city. My father, who was a state senator, used to, when someone called him up and screamed at him and accused him of all sorts of things, and my father said nothing. My father was a World War II veteran. He had a temper. And I was kind of surprised. And I said, Dad, why didn't you say anything? And he said, Nancy, remember this is Vermont. He says, Nancy, never fight with a pig because you both get muddy and the pig doesn't care. Well, that doesn't work when we're having to spend a lot of lawyer fees, and it's hard for everyone. I want you to know my heart goes out to you. And if I could pay Mr. Tedder and Ms. Ogden more, or you more for putting up with this, I, who am worried about my property taxes, would do that. So please, I brought these cookies for you from Gather in case you guys were all insulted. I want everyone, you too, right? Everyone to have a cookie. They're really good, and I have them after the meeting. It's all I can do, really, but I want you to know, my neighbors and what we talk about in the neighborhood, it's not this. People are happy with the commission and the governance of the city. That's what it's like in my block.
Thank you,
So
Dan.
remember the real world, not always the people that come here. I came here today to say that more than once, and I'm trying to say it with cookies. I'm trying to say it in every way we can because we're a small city and this is a human process. We really appreciate the dignity with which people have conducted themselves. And I can't apologize for other people, but I kind of wish I could because somebody owes it to you.
Thank you. I'm going to finish up with Lisa. You have you have something new to say?
So I can't mention that ordinance change that impacted just me again? Okay, sorry, something new. I hate following Nancy. You're so nice and reasonable. So, I mean, you're awesome. I just wanted to make a general comment about procedure. I know that these individual charter changes were discussed in meetings, which I don't pay attention to every meeting. I admit it. That's not my job. It's your job, quite frankly. But I will say this is the first time that we have seen the collective charter changes all in one place in the charter. As far as I know, it's one of the first times we've seen it all in one place in a draft and you're shaking your heads. I haven't seen it, and I don't think we've discussed it as in public, all of them in one place, in one document like we have this time. I'm hearing that we have, but I certainly didn't see it. I think collectively, those charter changes were reflected a sense of not paying attention to the residents, not paying attention to the fiscal impact of changes on the residents. And I am just asking all of you to really think about the changes that you're making and the impact on our pocketbooks, on the residents. The residents' comments in a couple of occasions here have been attacked. And I really don't appreciate that. We're here, we voted for you, you're acting on our behalf. And I don't want my comments to be attacked. I don't want to be told that my comments are not relevant or inaccurate. So I really ask you to think about how you're reacting to the residents, how you're listening to the residents. I feel Commissioner Thayer and Good, you listened to us relative to these charter changes. I want to tell you how much I appreciate that. And the only other comment I have, I know you're not asking for comments on the lawsuit because it's being discussed out of public view, but I'm not sure the residents understand that over $500,000 has, from what I've read, has been spent on this lawsuit relative to the city manager. And I know there's been a couple of attempts from the litigants to negotiate or, to close this matter out. With some changes in, with folks involved with these illegal charter changes, and none of these proposals from the litigants seem to be taking seriously. I urge you to please resolve this lawsuit. $500,000 when, those of you involved with that process need to take accountability and resolve this lawsuit and do what you can so we're not spending $500,000 and more. We're going into more legal fees to resolve this. Thank you.
Lisa. Anybody, we've got Frank and then Cindy. Did you all want to say something? Okay.
Frank Ainer, property owner on Henlope and rental property on Maryland Avenue. My husband and I could have retired anywhere in the country. We chose Rehoboth, and I thank you all for making this such a great place to live. And I'm very impressed that 6 weeks after the storm, how great the city looks. Because we took a ride yesterday. It's not looking so good elsewhere, so thank you. You're doing a great job.
Thank you, Frank. Cindy?
Me again, 4 Canal Street, Cindy Lovett. I was on the Streets and Transportation Committee for 8 years before I joined Main Street. And my buddy Walter Brittingham used to come to the meetings and yell at us over this and that and the other thing. And I finally said, Walter, stop yelling at us. We could all get so much more done because you have great ideas, but don't yell at us. Let's learn to work together instead. That's all.
Thank you. Hey, Mrs. Holdman?
Wait, how did you know my name?
Your name and address or relationship to the city?
My name is Carol Holzman. We live at 51 Columbia Avenue. And 2 months ago, I attended the Committee on Traffic and Safety. And what I want to say in reference to that is the police have been a lot more visible, but it can be a lot better. They sit on Columbia Avenue where speeders can see them, and then they slow down. And if they would sit on a side road and hide, even hide in our driveway, then they would actually generate more revenue. So if we're going to spend more money, I would like to see it spent on police protection, whether it's a rent-a-cop in the summer issuing speeding tickets, because there's a lot that we're missing, a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Holman. Anybody else? All righty, I'm going to close that section. The next agenda item is commissioner comments. If you recall, this is just for announcements. It's not for discussion of any topics. It's not for introducing any future topics. Does anybody have any announcements?
Mayor?
Commissioner
I
Saunders?
just want to apologize for my outburst to my fellow commissioners and to the public. I apologize.
I can understand it. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
And is it an announcement? Because we're not doing
important-
discussion. We're not doing discussion of any topics. This is an
Announcement, yes, it's, I would like to apologize for any offense I caused. I became very frustrated with the methods here, including including today, for instance, the collective vote on charter changes rather than taking them one by one, which would have seemed more democratic than what we ended up doing, and I'm disappointed that happened. But I went through things, including the city's official website, which carries the imprimatur of an official an official policy of the city, that one commissioner's long statement was published verbatim against me without any opportunity for me to explain some of the circumstances which led to some of the things I've written out of frustration or but I do want to apologize for any offense I may have caused, including one of the emails I happened to write when I was recovering from a sports injury. So I perhaps was not quite as lucid as I should have been. I've had a difficult time feeling as though my attempts to gain some control of the budget, to include the settlement of this lawsuit, which I've been asking for since last summer. Because yes, it's bleeding taxpayer resources
Suzanne,
unnecessarily.
finish up, because this is for announcements.
Because of the, I believe I have Rehoboth Beach's long-term interests at heart. And obviously, other people have different opinions about the rate of growth in the budget. But, you know, comparing to Lewis and other towns, we are certainly an outlier in the profligate spending. I hope going forward, we can work together more collaboratively. I do echo Ms. Lovett's sentiment. She's absolutely correct. You know, one catches more bees with honey, and I violated that basic tenet, for which I do humbly apologize.
Thank you, Suzanne. Our next bit of business here is executive session. This is for a strategy session involving legal advice or opinion from an attorney at law with respect to pending or future litigation as permitted by 29 Del.C. 10,004B4, which is the cited section of the Freedom of Information Act. Because we intend to go into executive session that obviously excludes members of the public, I need a motion to go into executive session. If somebody would make a motion and cite the rationale that's on the agenda, please.
Mayor, I'd move we go into a strategy session involving legal advice or opinion from an attorney at law with respect to pending or potential litigation as permitted by 29 Del.C. 10004B4.
I second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Patrick Gossett and a second by Commissioner Susan Stewart to enter into an executive session or for a strategy session involving legal advice or opinion from an attorney law with respect to pending or potential litigation as cited on the agenda. Is there a motion? No, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, and the motion's unanimous that we'll go into executive session. Before we leave, I want to cite for members of the public that might be watching or otherwise, that the duration of the executive session is unknown. We will relocate to the caucus room. The public is welcome to stay in this commissioner's room. But let's see, no action will be taken in executive session. We will adjourn, come back into public session, and adjourn from there. That's all. We are now going into executive session. Mark. Now we'll entertain a motion to come out of executive session back into public session. Patrick?
So moved.
I second.
We've got a motion by Commissioner Gossett and a second by Commissioner Stewart to come out of executive session and into public session. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
There being no further business or action, I adjourn this meeting at 12:33. Thank you very much.